there's a super pivotal character in the Torah named Pinchas. Most people translate it as Phineas in English. He was the grandson, the only born grandson at that point of Aharon HaKohen Gadol, of Aaron the high priest. And there's so many stories within, he kind of has a small part in the Torah itself, in the written Torah. But when you know a lot of the oral Torah, there's so many stories connected with that story. It's such a pivotal point in the Torah itself. And so for people who don't know, Aharon HaKohen Gadol had 4 sons when they were made Kohanim, which were like the high priests. He had Nadav and Avihu, which ended up perishing later on, and Eleazar and Ithamar. And his only grandson at the time was this guy Pinchas, who wasn't made a Cohen at the same time as his uncles, his father's uncle and his grandfather. And he was kind of upset, like bummed about it, upset, but he was hurt a little bit. He didn't understand, why is everyone being made a Cohen and I wasn't named a Cohen with them? And he didn't let it get to him, but it was something that, like anyone I think would be bothered, right? Is all of the men in his life, his father and his uncles and everybody's grandfather were given this prestigious title and made servants to the temple and to the Most High, and he was kind of left out. So he didn't let it get to him. He just did his thing. But there comes this time where these characters, Cosby and Zimri. Zimri was a prince of the tribe of Shimon. Cosby was a Midianite, I'm pretty sure. And there's cool stories there speaking on and what a pivotal moment it was. It goes into like the reincarnation of Dinah and Shechem, which I'll talk about more. We'll do a video on that. But they go and they start having this lustful relationship, basically having sex, in the temple of meeting. So where all the people would gather to meet with Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, they went and they started sleeping with each other in front of view of everyone. And it was forbidden for Israel to sleep with Midianites on top of it, but they were very blatantly not only breaking that law but being very lewd in front of the congregation. And in this moment everyone breaks down weeping. It's so shocking and out of character for Am Yisrael, that the nation of Israel, that they just start weeping. Even Moses himself, Moshe Rabbeinu, starts to weep. And nobody knows what to do. And Pinchas gets super fired up. And he grabs the spear of Moses. A lot of people don't know this. Another interesting story, that Moses was the king of Ethiopia for 40 years, according to oral traditions. And he had a spear still from those days. He had a staff from Hashem, from the divine, and a spear from his time as king of Ethiopia. So Pinchas, Phineas, grabs the spear and he skewers them both. He stabs both Zimri and Cosby for this lewd act in front of everybody. And so in that, he's rewarded his title of Cohen because he was willing to act when everyone else was paralyzed with grief. And there's even stories about that. Some people say anger is more useful than the sadness, right? Depression. Even in the Canterbury Tales, originally, I don't know if it's Canterbury Tales, but the 7 deadly sins, it wasn't sloth, it was actually sadness. And later on, people argue, how can that be, sadness be a deadly sin? Maybe we should just make it sloth. It's because extreme sadness, depression can paralyze people and just keeps them in bed or keeps them paralyzed. And so even though it's not really a Torah story, I think it's interesting, and it ties in here, where they were literally paralyzed in sadness in their grief of watching these two people sin in front of them. And so Pinchas reacts. He does something about it. And it kind of snaps everybody out of this like sadness they were all in. And in that he earns his place as a Cohen. But he's not just any Cohen. He's named the Cohen of War. And so the first act he's given to go do as the Cohen of War is to hunt down Balaam, which was the dark sorcerer. We've mentioned him before. Also a very pivotal character. Ties into a bunch of other stories, his donkey and all sorts of things, which we'll definitely go over. There's so much packed in this one story. But he goes, and this is part of the oral tradition, so it doesn't talk about his first mission as the Cohen of War in the written Torah, but this is an oral tradition. So he goes out and he takes 36,000 men with him, I believe it was. And he goes on this hunt to chase Balaam and the kings Midianite kings who he was with. And they go on this hunt, and he breaks the men up into an interesting formation. So he takes 12,000 to go on the offensive, 12,000 to sit back and play defense at the camp, make sure everything's safe, and then 12,000 to pray for the benefit and the success of the other 24,000, say, right? So and that's how he broke up his camp. And then he goes and they hunt him down. Awesome story. I would definitely do a video on it where they're like flying around and these guys bring him down. It's pretty interesting. So in this great midrashic and oral tradition, the story that about Pinchas, the Cohen of War, it always made me think of the IDF. And they always seem to have a problem integrating the Haredi, which are the religious community, ultra-Orthodox, let's call them, community, into the IDF. A lot of them don't serve. And it's mainly because they're trying to... they had such a level of scholarship in Europe before the atrocities of World War II. And we just had Holocaust Remembrance Day. And really remembering what was lost. In Lithuania, Ukraine, many parts of Europe, they had Torah scholarship that's really never been seen anywhere else and in any other time. These guys were so into studying, and they had found so many connections and Kabbalistic insights into the Torah that it really was a profound time for Torah study. And they've tried to sponsor this same kind of movement here to the best of their ability, and to some degree allowing the ultra-Orthodox not to serve if they don't want to. They can just continue to study Torah. But I think this midrash of Pinchas is a great example of what I believe the IDF should create, called the PrayerForce. So they have a great Air Force already. Why not a PrayerForce? No military in modern times has anything like this. There's chaplains and religious people in the military, but nothing with a dedicated part of the military that just prays for the success of the rest of the military. And so you could take these Haredi and you could put them into the IDF as still to study Torah. Their job is still to pray and study Torah. Maybe give them a picture of an active soldier and maybe somebody who does administrative work, or however they want to set it up. A couple soldiers to specifically pray for. That's their job. And there's plenty of science that shows there's some kind of effect from prayer. It definitely changes brain waves. They've noted it in many different religions. Also that in crops even, and in different things, there's definitely some kind of energy we're giving off that has an effect. There's scientific proof that it does do something, has some kind of effect. Whether we can actually find some quantitative value to that effect, Remains to be seen. We're not there. It's like the scouter video, though. We could hopefully get there at some point. But the prayer force would serve not only to protect these soldiers, IDF troops, through prayer, and they continue their scholarship, but I think there's a gap between the Haredi and who they call the Hiloni, which are the like more secular Jews. And partly because of this non-service in the military, everyone's has to serve here, men and women. And a lot of people don't like that the Haredi are exempt from the service. And you can be a conscientious objector. Actually, the mother of my daughter was a conscientious objector to the whole thing and served in the zoo, I think, and did like little kids events and stuff at the zoo first, and then after time she was moved to the like a social services, kind of like welfare office or something, was helping poor families. So you don't have to serve, but more or less you have to serve the community one way or another, whether it's through the IDF or it's through other government-run organizations. You do have to serve. So a lot of people don't feel right about the Haredi. And also, I think there's a disconnect in ideology that they don't know each other very well. And so I think the Haredi would benefit to get to meet secular Jews and see that they're not so different. And vice versa. The secular Jews can meet the Haredi and see that these are regular people too. And, you know, be able to share knowledge and share experiences, bond Israel even closer as a country. And on a final note, I think it's important that we remember the 40 years in the desert, that before coming to Eretz Israel, all the people save Joshua, son of Nun, right, Ben Nun, everyone else died, and the people who actually marched in Eretz Israel were these desert-hardened warriors. They definitely had the Torah. They were studying Torah for 40 years. They were led by the cloud of glory, the pillar of flame, eating manna. I mean, had the rivers of Miriam all throughout the camps, and they were definitely holy people, but at the same time they were tough. They'd been fighting battles when they needed to, when they were attacked, and they were tough people. And so it's not a bad thing for the Haredi. We're never going to recreate Europe exactly as it was. For these Haredi, though, to also be soldiers, at least go through boot camp. And then from there, they have their own, where they study and are still part of the military, but their primary focus is to pray for these two soldiers, just like Pinchas's army that he made, right? This 12,000 that just prayed for the other 24,000. And so they pray and they study Torah on behalf of these two soldiers and all Yisrael, right? So it's my idea for the prayer force. I know they're always trying to integrate the Haredi and haven't really found a great way to do it yet. So my suggestion, which I've had since reading this decades ago, probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago, has always been the prayer force. And it would be something. Israel's already such a unique country in that they've brought back a dead language, which has been in long time. I forget the exact years on it, but it's really rare that dead language comes back like that. And not quite completely dead, because people still daven and pray, but it's not a spoken language. It hasn't been used as a spoken language in millennia, I think. And then on top of that, a country that hasn't existed for thousands of years coming back. So it's a beautiful creation, and in and of itself, Israel is the Eretz Israel and the country of Israel. And to have a military that had forces like that, a prayer force, just adds to the mystique and all the amazing contributions to bringing back something that the world and time almost made extinct, or has tried to make extinct so many times and has always come through. That one of the beautiful things, they joke about it in Judaism, but of all the holidays, or basically they tried to destroy us, and we survived. Let's eat. So I love the idea of a prayer force and the IDF, and this all comes from Pinchas, the Cohen of War. And we'll go into all the stories connected to this one story. This is a pivotal moment in the Torah in a lot of ways. There's a lot of great stories from this one story, from reincarnation and things created before the creation, and talking donkeys and sorcerers on the equal to Moses' level. And so I wish everyone the blessing of praying to protect those that you love. That however your prayers are, they don't have to be to any, it's all one source. They don't have to be to even a deity, but just to pray in your heart and think about the things and the people, especially in this world, that you love and you care about, and to remember to give them thoughts or prayers, we can call them, whatever you want to call it, of safety and protection and love, because we all need love in this world, and even our thoughts are connected. If it really is cosmic consciousness, if it really is quantum entanglement, just your thoughts will affect people. And I'm sure we've all had experiences where you think about someone and then the phone rings and you pick it up. I feel like I had a lot more before cell phones, but it still happens every now and again with texting and stuff. But yeah, those kind of experiences. So our thoughts do change, and how we talked about, just by existing, our thoughts change reality. Good intentions, everything do change the entirety of reality. So I wish everyone to remember those you love, remember those you care about, and to think about them and think about their wellness, and whether you call it a prayer or a thought or whatever wording you want to put to it, and to continue to do so, because we all need that in our lives. And it's always to the benefit of those you think about and those you pray for. And so I wish us all the strength to do that and continue to do that. And as always, and if you have anyone you especially want to pray for, or you have any thoughts on the subject, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. And I really want to promote comments, because they're so fun and super interesting. Even if I don't always have time to get to them right away, I try. Sometimes I'm just rushing through the day and get a video up, and I can't always respond right away. But I'd love to hear it, and spread good thoughts to anybody, or any experiences you've had with good thoughts being spread, or thinking about people and coming through. I'd love to hear about it. So, as always, let's do this, people. Save the humans.
Trying to be a better man. Oh yeah. Trying to do the best I can. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna do right thing. Do right thing. No matter what they want to say. And I'm gonna still fight for you. Still fight for you.